This is Montana 2006.
Okay. And what happened?
Well, actually, what happened is it wasn't me or my husband. I have a son. He's a college student. He's 22.
Mm-hmm.
He does stay here in Alabama, and he lives here in my home with me and my husband. We have 6 children, and me and my husband that stay in our home.
Mm-hmm.
And home of all our teenagers and in college. So we have 2 in college, and the other ones are in high school. And what happened is my son, my eldest son, the 22-year-old, he cursed his sister out, which is my daughter. His sister, he cursed her out. And I was very upset. Of course, naturally, a mom's going to be upset, about him cursing his sister.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm kind of I'm a very strict parent. And I was very upset that he cursed his sister out, because that hurt her feelings, and then plus it was just disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
And so actually, I'm the one that called the police. I wasn't distraught when I called 911, nothing like that. I just kind of told them, the situation. That my son was 22, he cursed his sister, and that I was upset about it, and I just wanted the police to come because I was I was so upset I couldn't even talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
It was sort of like I called him as an intervention just to talk to him because I was upset.
Okay.
That kind of a scenario. It wasn't any violence going on in the home. He was in one room, she was in the other room. It wasn't anything of that nature. Matter of fact, when the police came and arrived to our home, 2 officers came. It was an older gentleman and a young cop, maybe 20, 21. And we were all standing outside. Not my son that I called the police on, but the remainder of my family, my husband and my other children.
Mm-hmm.
We were all outside, so when they came, we stood out there to let them know that they weren't they make sure they knew that it wasn't anything violent going on, nobody was in any harm, that they were okay, as far as them, because I understand police are under a lot of, I'm sure that's nervousness coming to a home, you don't know what's happening, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So my husband and I were out there, and we established that, to make sure they knew they were safe and that everybody in the house was safe. It was just that my son cursed his sister. And I just wanted to talk to my son, about being disrespectful, because he's never been in trouble. The boys, they're very respectful kids. They've never been in any trouble. They're just students, smart students, So it was just that scenario. This was basically that, Of course, at that moment, when I called the police, I was upset because of his sister. But when they got here, of course, I just want them to talk to my son, let him know that was disrespectful, that kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the young officer, he was more or less like, he was really abrasive and aggressive, toward me and my family when, he started talking to me and my husband and questioning. He started questioning my husband and said, well, who's the man of the house? And my husband said, well, I'm the man of the house. And he said, well, why are you calling us? And so he was like getting aggressive, and, we were looking at him like, okay, we told you why we called, and then so he was really like, seems like he was just very aggressive, the younger cop.
So he was hold on a second. So he was kind of ridiculing your husband by asking him that question?
Sir?
Was he trying to be smart with your husband by asking that question?
Yes, sir, yeah, he was trying to be smart, like very sarcastic. He was real sarcastic, how try to, if you call someone for help and then they try to, as if he didn't want to be there at all, which
like are you saying that the officer gave the impression that he was wasting his time?
Yes, like he was trying to be intimidating. I'm a smart person, and my husband, like I said, he was in the Air Force 26 years, and then my husband kind of, we both ramped up at him, like, he, in other words, he was like, I guess, like you're calling out somebody's manhood, like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My husband didn't even know I had called 911 because he was in the bathtub.
Okay.
So when I came in and told him what I had done, then he of course got out the tub and came on. Because we're family.
Mm-hmm.
He came on out and he didn't say anything to my son. He just because we don't that's why we called him, because we didn't want any family confrontation. Does that make any sense?
Yes. Now, hold on, ma'am. I need to do a couple of things. I need to know what else the officers did so I can give you some direction on what to do about it.
Okay, that's what I'm fixing to get to. I'm sorry. And
Mm-hmm.
what happened is, he talked to my daughter and told him, that he cursed her out, and then the officer said, well, did he hit you or, make any kind of moves toward you or anything of that nature? He told him no. They were in two totally different rooms. He was in downstairs, she was in the kitchen. He just verbally yelled at,
Mm-hmm.
And so the officer said, to the point, they said, well, do we want him arrested? And we were like, no, we don't want him arrested. I mean, not. And then so I was getting confused, and I was like, no, we don't want him arrested. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like the boy is not a criminal or anything like that. So we were really confused to what they were leading. And then I started feeling, well, I feel like a fool because I'm like, I'm not sure about these police. They were making me nervous.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I'm not from Alabama, and I guess I know a lot of officers at Texas personally, and just their way of communicating was so confusing here that I just got that feeling immediately, like, okay, I don't want, I don't know what's fixing to happen. So he asked us to go in our house and talk to our son, because obviously we said, that's fine. And then they went in the house, and he asked, he did ask me and my husband and our family to stay outside.
Mm-hmm.
But being the mom that I am very protective of my children. Even though he was disrespectful, that's still my son. If that makes any sense.
It does.
I went on, so they went in my home, and they went downstairs to talk to my son. Because I was standing like in the dining area where they couldn't kind of see me, but I could hear them.
Mm-hmm.
Talking to my son.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very calm demeanor. They were asking my son what happened. He told him he cursed his sister. He was very quiet, low-key, because he's a quiet kid anyway. Well, a young man, I should say, rather. And then the officer asked him, what happened. He told him, his sister, he cursed her out, but he had apologized, that he was sorry. And so he went on to tell the officer, the officer asked him what was he going to do. He said, well, I'm going to be at home for a couple of weeks because 2 weeks before, after that, he was going to the military. So he had already taken his ass down. He told the officer, well, I'm going to the military so I can finish paying for my college, which is true because he's already taken it and he's ready to go 2 weeks before this happened. However, the officer asked my son, to step outside, and he did. And so we were, of course, we're outside still, with the officers, and my son was, went to the police car. He was on the phone with my brother in Orlando, just talking, and the officer asked him to hang up the phone, which he did. And then I was standing there listening, and I just heard my son, he said, no, the officer told him that he needs to get in the car because they're going to arrest him. He said, for what? And then the officer told him, he said, boy, don't be asking me questions. And I said, boy. I'm thinking, boy, this is a young man. He wasn't maybe even 1 or 2 years older than my son.
Well, hold on. Were these officers white, black, mixed?
Yeah, they both were Caucasian. No, they both were Caucasian. And my son is he's a minority. He's a young black man.
Okay, so hold on. So you found that to be offensive. The get in here.
Yeah, I did because I don't even call him boy, and he's a grown man. I mean, I don't even address my sons as boy. I call them, by their name or son.
Okay.
I mean, to me, that's a racial epithet as far as I'm concerned.
Right. I understand. Okay, now let me ask you a few more questions. Did they actually arrest him?
Well, before that happened, my son, like I said, my son was asking what was he being arrested for, and they never told him. He said, "Boy, don't be asking me no questions. This is what I say." And then the officer behind him, and both of them started reaching for the handcuffs. When they started reaching for the handcuffs, my son ran. Now, he did run. Now, he may have been wrong for that, but I'm sure the boy was scared. But he's never been in trouble. He did take off running. Now, when my son took off running, we all started, yelling at him like, Keeman, stop, stop, because he's a football player. He's fast. He's a muscular kid. And we told him, stop, Keeman. And my son and I followed him. We ran right when he took off running, because he came running towards the family and went around the carport, around my Jeep, around the car and the Jeep. And so the older officer